Hi folks, Aaron here from Aaron's Practical Reviews. Today's video is going to be about mirrorless versus DSLR and which one is better for you. And this is not going to be just a personal preference video. I want to give some exact reasons why I think certain cameras are better for certain people depending on age, their experience in photography, and other different aspects. Obviously money plays a role as well, but yeah, so let's get right into it. First, let's talk about what a mirrorless camera is. Well, first let's talk about what a DSLR is. How a DSLR works. First of all, this is very simple. See that mirror in there? Right in there? There's a mirror in there. And what happens is the image comes in, reflects off that mirror, goes up and into this viewfinder. And you're getting a live view of what's in front of you. A mirrorless camera that does not have that mirror has a digital image that's processed in the viewfinder. So what you're seeing in the viewfinder of a mirrorless camera is a processed image of what's actually in front of you that has all the settings included, which is the aperture, the shutter speed, the ISO. It's all blended into the actual image as it's going to be taken or as you're filming. So you're seeing a live view of a processed image versus the live view of the optical viewfinder. You're seeing just whatever's in front of you, no matter what the camera settings are. So you could be completely off with a DSLR, take pictures, and not know it until you glance down and check them out. Versus a electronic viewfinder, mirrorless camera, where it's showing you instantly what you're taking a picture of, what the settings are, all processed in there. So it's much easier to make mistakes on a DSLR. So for beginners in today's market, if you can't afford it, I would definitely recommend a mirrorless camera. The reason being, exactly as I said, it gives you a live image of what's in front of you. It's a lot harder to make mistakes. It actually has better tracking as well. So let's get into that real quick. Mirrorless cameras have newer technology in them that is excellent at tracking. For example, the camera I'm using right now is the R6. I can see it right over here with this flip out screen that I'm looking at. I am seeing a picture of a box around my head and a small box around my eye. So it is staying focused and tracking my eye. Now, DSLRs can do that as well, but mirrorless technology is slightly faster, slightly better because it's newer. So, versus some of these cameras here, this is the T7i 2017, tracks okay. Full frame 60 Mark II, tracks okay. This came out in 2016. This is the 90D, came out in, I want to say 2019. Tracks excellent. So this is a DSLR that has excellent tracking, almost equivalent to the R6 that I'm using now. So you do have excellent options with tracking in some DSLRs, but in general, that is not the case in the viewfinder. The viewfinder is typically you picking a spot on a DSLR. You have to pick a spot optically and take the picture. Versus a DSLR, when you look in the viewfinder, it will lock onto the subject, follow it around, and you will almost be guaranteed a lot more accuracy in a mirrorless camera. So for beginners, it just makes the introduction and the process of photography much easier. For advanced users like me or most people out there who've been using, most photographers have been photographers for a long time, they've learned how to use these as well as most people will ever know how to use a mirrorless. So your experience level plays a huge role in which camera to pick, in my opinion. And I would highly recommend a mirrorless camera for beginners if you can afford it. If not, these will be fine. These are great options. The DSLRs are great options, but you just have to work a little harder to learn it, which is still fun. I had a blast learning how to use the viewfinder and how to take pictures and make sure they were sharp and on point and getting the right subject in focus and stuff like that. That was a lot of fun, but it's just way easier with the DSLR. Okay, second, let's get into battery life real quick. Battery life on a DSLR is way better because the optical viewfinder of a DSLR doesn't require any extra energy. The electronic viewfinder that's processing that image constantly on a mirrorless camera is constantly soaking up battery to keep that image going. So, and it's really smooth in the viewfinder of the newer cameras. So you're getting it looks like a live view, but it's actually a processed digital image that's just soaking up battery life. So battery life, definitely DSLRs are much better. You can take them out on one battery, one charge, and pretty much be out all day taking photos with DSLR, mixing video in. With a mirrorless camera, you're gonna have to probably swap out the battery a couple times, to be honest. At least I do. But so battery life, the win there definitely goes to the DSLR. Now, as far as lenses go, with lenses, it's a wash because you can, now that there are adapters for every mirrorless camera, you can use all your old, or if you want to buy used, EF and EFS lenses, which are typically, EF is for full frame Canon, EFS is for crop sensor. However, EF lenses will work on crop sensors as well. I know it's kind of confusing, but that's just the way it works. But all the lenses on the market will work on new mirrorless cameras. And then also the new RF mounts will work on the mirrorless. That's what the Canon RF mounts are for. Now those are usually, right now, super expensive, but those aren't backwards compatible. So the thing with the mirrorless camera, another advantage is right now with Canon anyways, all the lenses will work on the mirrorless camera. All the EF, EFS, and RF. Versus the DSLRs, only the EF and EFS lenses will work on the DSLRs, depending on which one you have. Now, that's not a huge deal. It's not a deal breaker, but it is something to think about moving forward as Canon is releasing more and more RF lenses, and they're pretty much done with their EF and EFS lens, although their EF and EFS lines are pretty stacked. I mean, if you want it, it's there somewhere. No matter if you want wide, telephoto, macro, portrait, landscape, whatever you want, it's there. It exists, and there's tons of them. Okay, so another big factor I would definitely take into consideration when you're looking to buy right now, at least I do, is your personal eyesight. And let me explain. On a DSLR, you take your picture, and then you have to look at the screen to see if you got the right sharpness. Now, if you're like me and you can't see close up because I'm 47, I can't see this screen from here. Nothing on it. I got to hold it all the way back to, I got to hold it way back there. That just doesn't work for me. And I can't have glasses on going down and up and all that. So with a DSLR, because of my age, unfortunately, after I take a picture in the viewfinder, or if I want to take video, for example, picture or video, I have to take it and hold it back or put glasses on to see if I got it in focus. With the mirrorless camera, I can do all of that in the viewfinder. I can take the picture, preview the picture in the viewfinder, and I can also shoot video in the viewfinder, which you cannot shoot video in the viewfinder of a DSLR. So, because all the Canon cameras that I'm talking about here have this little adjustment here, eye adjustment to the, to your eye, you can adjust this to the focus of your eye, which I'm just screwing that all up now. I'm going to be lost. But anyways, you can adjust that to the focus of your eye individually. So it'll be crystal clear when you're looking through the viewfinder, okay? So for me, I can preview everything, the video, the photos, everything on the mirrorless without needing glasses. And I can shoot video without having to go like this to see if everything's in focus. If I was younger, I could just stand here and go like this and boom, perfect. But I'm not, okay? So that's definitely something I think about personally. Something you might want to think about too when you're buying your camera going forward here. I have just as much fun using DSLRs for photography and stuff, or I had just as much fun learning and all that, minus the eye issues that's been creeping up, getting worse and worse. I had a blast learning with DSLRs. I could afford them. This camera here was my starter camera. At the time, it was still kind of pricey. I paid like $750. Right now, you might be able to get this for $400 with a couple decent lenses. So you might be able to get off and running for under $500 with an excellent camera that you can take excellent photos with. And now this is limited 1080p video, but you could still use it to make to support a YouTube channel in 1080p. And you can use every lens on Canon's market minus the RFs with this. So, or all the EF and all the EFS lenses with the inexpensive camera used, if you want to find that. You're not going to find a mirrorless camera of Canon's anywhere near that price right now, because they're so new. So I don't know what the cheapest mirrorless camera you'll find it's going to be, but I doubt it'll be $400, $500. Probably cheapest you'll probably find $700, $800. So that's quite a big difference. Now, also think about the fact that DSLRs were out for years and years and years. people were making a lot of money using DSLRs. They're not bad cameras. It's just the technology moved on, and mirrorless, in my opinion, has better tracking capabilities. It has better ease of use, and it overall, my overall experience, because again of my issues with the viewfinders, in that I've had a much more pleasant experience using a mirrorless camera, taking photos and stuff. Not to say I don't still enjoy using these when I take them out. I have taken them out recently, and it's still fun, but it is different. So these are the things you need to take into consideration. And right now it might be a great time to go out and get a DSLR, especially with the economy going the way it is. People are probably trying to sell some of their older things. That everybody's always in the photography business or world. Seems like everybody's always trying to get out and get the latest and greatest. And sometimes when they do that, I think they overlook some of they forget the fact that some of the equipment that they're trying to sell is still excellent, and people can really take advantage of that, I think, right now. So I would say that definitely the people who would benefit the most from mirrorless technology are the newcomers to photography and to videography. If you've got any experience at all and you're watching this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You're probably really good with a DSLR, and because you practice with it, you know you can use it, the viewfinder, to get focus all the time. You've learned exactly how to work the little dots in the viewfinder versus the electronic viewfinder that just locks on and tracks in the mirrorless camera, making it almost effortless. But you kind of lose that skill, and sometimes after you've worked years to hone in on that skill, it's a lot of fun. So DSLR users are usually pretty hesitant to jump to mirrorless because they've worked so hard on honing that skill, and that's a skill they're proud of, and you should be. It takes a long time to learn that. You don't want to give that up. But I can tell you, for me personally, when I jumped to the mirrorless and I went out for bird photography or tracking eagles or hawks, all the different things I like to track, it just made a world of difference as far as how easy it was, and my shots seem to be a lot more accurate. Again, that might just be because I'm not as good as some of the other people out there who have years of experience on the DSLR, but it was just easier, and for me personally, it was more pleasant using the mirrorless. But again, that's not to say I didn't have a great time learning on the DSLRs and still using them when I want to. But that's it. I think just to sum everything up, I'll say it again. I think beginners would definitely benefit the most from using mirrorless technology. However, beginners typically don't want to go out and spend all that money, so it makes sense for a beginner to start with a DSLR and get a couple good lenses. So my recommendation to a beginner, if money's an issue, which 99.9% of people it is, start with a nice inexpensive DSLR. You might be able to pick up used, get some good lenses, and learn about lighting, learn about composition, practice what the different apertures do, and, learn how all that works together, learn photography, in other words. And then you will benefit greatly if you ever do move up to a mirrorless camera. It'll all make more sense. It'll be way easier to use. If you can jump right into a mirrorless camera, awesome. You're gonna be miles ahead of where you would be starting with a DSLR, because the camera does almost all the work for you in the viewfinder with the focusing and stuff like that, and the tracking. They are exceptional, especially the Canon's new lineups. If you look through, even going back to their first EOS R, the R, the RP, the R7, the R10, the R6, the R5, all those, excellent. You're going to spend a little more money on it. But the good news is you can still go back and get some of the older lenses, get the adapter, and use all that on the mirrorless as well. So it is a really exciting time to be a photographer right now because of all the options out there. And the introduction of mirrorless that's really sweeping through Canon has been really cool and fun to watch. And I'm glad I was able to get my hands on the R6 early on and really get to learn it, and I'm really excited to see what's coming out in the future. But still, with that said, I definitely wouldn't give up on their old DSLRs that are still excellent. I'm still looking for the 5D Mark IV. I really want that camera. That's a camera I never got. If I find it as a steal, I'm going to get it because I've always wanted that camera. So, but anyways, that's it. Hopefully this was useful. I know I've been rambling on, but something I wanted to talk about for a while, and I thought this was a good time, especially with the market shifting and the release of the R7 and the R10.
which I don't have. I don't have a lot of experience, so don't ask me anything about them. I'm happy they're out, because the more cool cameras that are out, the I think it's better the photography world is in general, and innovation is cool. So I'm all for it, but don't forget about these guys. All right, thanks, folks. Thanks for watching. Subscribe and have a fantastic day.